Greetings. This podcast will start a new series of podcasts that will cover the history, geology, activities, and natural features of McCormick's Creek State Park. The podcast is based on my book, McCormick's Creek State Park, the first book in my Indiana State Park Travel Guide series. Before I start, I would like to announce the beginning of two new podcasts that I am beginning: Indiana's Timeless Tales and American History Stories. Indiana's Timeless Tales relates the history of Indiana from prehistory to modern times. Currently, there are 6 books in the series, with another just about to enter publication status. American History Stories includes my Timeline of United States History series, which is a timeline of events from Christopher Columbus to the Revolutionary War. Now, back to McCormick's Creek State Park. McCormick's Creek State Park is the first state park established in Indiana in 1916. It is 100 years after Indiana received statehood. That was also the first area resident John McCormick homesteaded on 100 acres on the site. The park includes almost 2,000 acres of forest, campground, trails, and fun. McCormick's Creek flows through a rugged limestone canyon cascading over waterfalls and rapids. It flows into the nearby White River that borders the park on the west. Visitors may stay in Canyon Inn, one of 7 family cabins, or camp in the modern campground. Located adjacent to Indiana State Road 46, the park is located about 1.5 miles east of Spencer, Indiana, and about 12 miles west of Bloomington, Indiana. McCormick's Creek State Park address is 250 McCormick's Creek Road, Spencer, Indiana, 47460. It consists of 1,924 acres. The phone is 812-829-2235. The toll-free number is 1-800-457-8283. 2 historic events that occurred eons ago created the landscape contained in McCormick's Creek State Park. The first was a shallow sea that covered the region that is now Indiana about 250 million years ago. Dead sea creatures, corals, and sand settle at the bottom of this sea. The rock present in the canyon of McCormick's Creek is in 3 layers. The oldest at the bottom is called the Salem Limestone Layer. Hikers can find this layer in the limestone quarry near the canyon's mouth on Quarry Loop that branches off from Trail 2 and Trail 7. The next layer is a 60-foot thick St. Louis limestone, which makes up the majority of the canyon walls. Near the top of this falls, the layer ends, topped by the St. Genevieve limestone. Uplifting. The Earth's surface is not static, and various forces like continental drift and uplifting are constantly occurring. Uplifting of the Earth's surface drained the shallow sea, exposing the seabed to atmospheric forces. The Illinois Glacier forms. During the Pleistocene area, a vast glacial sheet covered most of North America. The Pleistocene Era. The Pleistocene Era began roughly 2 million years ago and ended about 10,000 years ago. During this vast period of time, 4 episodes of extensive glaciations covered most of what is now Indiana. These glaciers created 2 vastly different landscapes. Roughly, the northern 2/3 comprise what geologists call the Tipton Till. Glaciers covered this area during all 4 glacial events. The southern third was probably never touched by ice. It is a heavily forested land that still bears the marks of the vast water runoff that occurred when the Ice Age ended around 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. The Huron-Erie Lobe is the glacier that covered Indiana during the last glacial event. Scientists estimate that the average temperature of Earth was about 6 to 12 degrees Celsius colder than it is now. Sometime about 2 million years ago, the Earth's climate cooled. Over the vast regions of what is now Canada and North America, the temperature dropped below freezing and remained there through the year. Snow fell and did not melt. More layers of snow covered this unmelted snow, building up layer after layer of snow. The weight of the accumulated snow turned snow to ice. The ice formed layers up to 2 miles thick in the Great Lakes region. Over central Indiana, the glaciers were probably a mile thick. This gradually diminished as the ice reached the margins. Flowing ice. The pressure deep in the ice field caused the ice to become almost fluid in its movements. This ice flowed over the landscape, carving out rivers and lakes. It also created hills on the dunes area around Lake Michigan. The weight of the ice sheet created the Great Lakes Basin and then filled that basin with meltwater when the temperatures warmed and the ice melted. Geologists estimate that the ice moved about a foot a day, first advancing and then retreating. Always it compressed and crushed the terrain beneath it. Southern Indiana. Most of the southern portion of the state had glaciers at different times. However, there is a segment in the south central region that has never, as far as scientists can tell, had glaciers. During the last episode, the boundary was a ragged line from approximately Terre Haute in the west to Brookville in the east. Below that, the older karst topography of caves, sinkholes, knobs, and disappearing streams that are not found in the northern areas. Formation of the canyon. The ice did not reach the site of McCormick's Creek State Park. When the ice began melting about 50,000 years ago, the meltwaters began eroding the Earth's surface, carving the canyon that is now forms the majority of McCormick's Creek. The climate during that time was wetter and colder, thus the erosion took place at a faster rate than occurs today. The falls is still eroding the creek bed, but at a much slower rate than during historic times. The running water eroded some of the areas of the softer limestone formations faster than some of the harder formations. This type of geological formation is called karst geography. Visitors will find large numbers of sinkholes, caves, natural bridges formed over the ages. The canyon at McCormick's Creek is about 1 mile long and almost 100 feet deep. Karst terrain forms when water with a slight acid content dissolves underground layers of carbonate-based limestone, dolomite, or gypsum, which are slightly basic. The flowing water creates caves, springs, disappearing rivers or streams, and sinkholes. Most karst landscape occurs in southern Indiana, though other areas of the state also have it. Prior to settlement, many American Indian tribes hunted the area's rich wildlife population and utilized many of the other food sources in the area. Tribes using the land included the Miami, Potawatomi, Eel River, and Delaware tribes. Game animals included white-tailed deer, wild turkey, bison, squirrels, and rabbits. The forests yielded a rich supply of nuts and acorns, while the forest floor provided blackberries, raspberries, plum, persimmons, and grapes. Early settler John McCormick homesteaded about 100 acres of land in the area around the waterfall on what became known as McCormick's Creek in 1816. Numerous attempts to build a gristmill failed because the creek's water flow was not sufficient. The soil was too poor to farm, and the difficult terrain made transportation of the quarried limestone in the area almost impossible. Physician Frederick Denkwalter, impressed with the tranquil atmosphere of the site, established a sanitarium on the area now occupied by Canyon Inn in 1888. When Mr. Denkwalter passed away in 1914, the state of Indiana purchased his estate for the establishment of a state park. The founder of the Indiana State Park System, Richard Lieber, had become aware of the area and pressed for the property to be used as one of the state's first state parks. In honor of the Indiana Centennial in 1916, the state established the state park system, with McCormick's Creek becoming the first state park on July 4, 1916. The park's dedication was part of the state centennial celebration. Originally 350 acres, the park has grown to 1,924 acres through the acquisition of surrounding farmland. John Wesley McCormick, 1st, August 30th, 1754, through April 18th, 1837, the son of Francis W. McCormick and Anne Prongvance. John was native to West Winchester, Virginia. He served in 3 different regiments during the Revolutionary War from 1776 through 1783. During the course of the war, McCormick moved to Pennsylvania, where he married Catherine Drennan. The couple would have 14 children. In 1808, the family moved by wagon, then flatboat, to Preble County, Ohio. A short time after moving to Ohio, the family moved into the Indiana Territory. They first settled at Connersville, but moved away due to troubles with the natives. In 1816, McCormick settled in the area that is now McCormick's Creek State Park. John died on April 18, 1837. Catherine on February 26, 1862. A stone marker inside the state park marks the site of their cabin. Dr. Frederick William Denkwalter, February 20th, 1842 through January 28, 1914. A native of Baden, Germany, Dr. Denkwalter immigrated to Indianapolis in 1870, where he opened a drugstore. Denkwalter founded the Spencer Mineral Springs Hotel and Sanitarium in 1888 near Spencer, Indiana. He passed away in his home in Spencer, Indiana, from heart failure and is interred at Crown Hill Cemetery in Indianapolis. Richard Lieber, September the 5th, 1869 through April the 15th, 1944. Visitors to Turkey Run will find the Richard Lieber Memorial east of Turkey Run Inn behind the log church. The memorial contains the ashes of founder of the Indiana State Park System, Civilian Conservation Corps at McCormick's Creek State Park. CCC Company 589 arrived at McCormick's Creek State Park in November 1933 and stayed until July 1935. They camped at Camp SP4. McCormick's Creek was the company's first project. After departing the park in 1935, the company traveled to northeastern Indiana to work on a tract of land that would become Salmon River State Forest. The company planted hundreds of pine trees in the park and had previously been cleared for agricultural land. Civilian Conservation Corps, the CCC, established by executive order on April 5, 1933 by President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the CCC served as one of the most important parts of Roosevelt's New Deal programs to deal with the high unemployment during the Great Depression. The United States Army helped provide transportation for the men that would work on environmental conservation projects around the United States. By July 1, 1933, the CCC had established 1,433 camps around the country, providing jobs for 300,000 men. By 1935, the CCC would have 2,600 camps with almost 3 million workers. The CCC built 97,000 miles of roadway, planted 2.3 billion trees, developed 800 state parks, and over 13,000 miles of hiking trails in those parks. Additionally, the men of the CCC stocked lakes and rivers with over 1 million fish and constructed 3,470 fire towers. To enlist in the CCC, men had to be United States citizens, in good physical shape, single, and between the ages of 17 and 23. The CCC later raised this age to 26. The monthly pay was $30 per month. They had to send $25 per month home to their families. The CCC added an educational program which enabled over 40,000 illiterate men to learn to read and write. Find out more about this state park by purchasing the book McCormick's Creek State Park. The book includes the history and geography of the park, activities, and sights to see in the surrounding areas. You can find it on my website, www.mossyfeetbooks.com, on the Indiana State Park Travel Guide Series category. Just scroll down to categories, click the Indiana State Park Travel Guide Series, and there it is. There are links to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google Play, and other online booksellers. You may choose to purchase the book in either ebook or softbound versions. An audiobook version is also available right now on Google Play. There will be about 9 more podcasts in this series covering different aspects of the park. At the conclusion of the series, I will compile the episodes into an audiobook. The audiobook will be available on Audible, Amazon, Apple, Barnes & Noble, as well as many other audiobook sellers. You can order these books direct from me, the author, on the webpage. If you wish me to sign the book, to send me an email to mossyfeetbooks@gmail.com requesting a signed book and instructions on how you want me to address it. Note, if you send me an email, I will add you to my contact list. Readers on the list will receive an email from me announcing when I publish a new book. If you do not want me to add you to the list, tell me and I will not add you. Listeners to this podcast that want email notification of my new releases can just send an email requesting addition to the list. You can choose to have your name removed at any time. If you browse the website, you will find dozens of sample chapters, one for each of my book. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and thank you for listening.